Cuba is teetering on the edge. The U.S. crackdown on Venezuela's illicit oil trade is cutting off the fuel that keeps Havana and the Cuban regime running. It's triggering blackouts, food shortages, and a mass exodus. It's a cascading crisis, and the consequences are landing just 90 miles from the U.S. I'll have the details. Today's story comes from the Wall Street Journal, reported by the paper's South American bureau chief, Juan Ferrero, and it's a reminder that in geopolitics, pressure applied in one place often lands somewhere else entirely. As we've been tracking, the U.S. has been stepping up efforts to choke off Venezuela's illicit oil trade, targeting tankers, pressuring shipping companies, and enforcing sanctions designed to squeeze Maduro's regime. The goal is, well, fairly straightforward: cut off a major revenue stream that keeps Caracas afloat. But those efforts are having a powerful secondary effect, perhaps one the administration didn't fully intend, but also one that perhaps is somewhat welcoming. And that effect is pushing Cuba's economy and its regime to the brink of total collapse. Even in the best of times, Cuba's economy lives on a knife's edge. It produces very little energy of its own, relies heavily on imports, and has long depended on subsidized oil from allies to keep the lights on. For years, that lifeline came from Venezuela, cheap crude shipped in exchange for Cuban doctors and intelligence and security support and political loyalty. Now, that oil from Venezuela is drying up. As U.S. pressure tightens around Venezuela's oil exports, shipments to Cuba have fallen sharply. The tankers are being intercepted, insurance is harder to secure, fuel deliveries that once arrived regularly are now sporadic or don't arrive at all. And for Cuba, that disruption is catastrophic. Across the island, rolling blackouts have become the norm. Entire neighborhoods lose power for hours at a time, sometimes longer. Without electricity, water pumps shut down, refrigeration fails, hospitals struggle to run basic equipment. Food shortages, already severe, are reportedly getting worse. Fuel scarcity cripples transportation, of course, leaving crops rotting in fields and empty shelves in the cities. Public transportation is unreliable. Medicine is harder to distribute. Diseases linked to poor sanitation and lack of clean water are spreading. According to reporting in the Journal, roughly a quarter of Cuba's population has fled the island during this prolonged economic crisis. That's not a slow trickle, it's a mass exodus. Families are breaking apart, professionals are leaving, young people see no future and are willing to risk dangerous journeys to escape. And this isn't just about economic mismanagement, though there's plenty of that. Cuba's system has always depended on an external benefactor or benefactors. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the island plunged into what it called the, quote, special period, marked by hunger, blackouts, and, frankly, desperation. Venezuela later filled that void. Now, as Caracas itself is squeezed, Cuba is once again exposed. What's notable here is how closely Havana's fate is tied to Maduro's survival. Cuba has invested deeply in Venezuela, providing intelligence assistance, internal security expertise, and political backing. That relationship helped keep Maduro and his predecessor, Hugo Chavez, in power during years of unrest. Cuban officials are scrambling now to manage the fallout. They're rationing electricity. They're urging patience. They're blaming sanctions and external forces. But there's little they can do to replace the lost fuel quickly, and no obvious ally is waiting in the wings to step in at scale. For Washington, this raises an uncomfortable question. The pressure campaign against Venezuela is meant to weaken an authoritarian regime and limit its influence in the region. But that same pressure is now accelerating a humanitarian and economic collapse just 90 miles from Florida. A collapse that could trigger even larger migration flows, strain regional partners, and deepen instability across the Caribbean. This isn't an argument for propping up Havana, of course, or easing pressure on Maduro. It's a reminder that sanctions and blockades don't operate in isolation, in a bubble. They move through ecosystems of dependency and alliances and unintended consequences. Cuba's economy has always survived on borrowed time and borrowed fuel. Now, it seems, both are running out. And the Wall Street Journal reports the island isn't just struggling, it's nearing a breaking point, caught in the cross currents of a regional pressure campaign that may be reshaping the map faster than anyone planned. All right. Coming up next, the Trump administration orders nearly 30 U.S. ambassadors home, thinning the diplomatic ranks worldwide. And there's growing instability inside Syria as gun battles erupt in Aleppo amid talks to absorb Kurdish forces into the regime's security apparatus. I'll be right back. Hey, Mike Baker here. Now, as the new year approaches, let me take just a moment of your time to talk about your financial goals, right? A very important subject. Now, because of a great company out there called Stash, that's Stash, just like it sounds, Stash, you don't need to overhaul your life just to start investing. You just automate it. With Stash, your new year money goals can quietly run in the background while you focus on everything else going on in your busy life. You see, Stash isn't just another investing app. It's a registered investment advisor that combines automated investing with expert personalized guidance. So you don't have to worry about gambling or figuring it out on your own. Think about it. Just $3 per month gets you access to world-class financial advice and personalized guidance, so you can start investing in your future today. Don't let your money just sit around. Put it to work with Stash. Go to get.stash.com/PDB to see how you can receive $25 toward your first stock purchase and a few important disclosures. That's get.stash.com/PDB. One more time, get.stash.com/PDB. This is a paid non-client endorsement, not representative of all clients and not a guarantee. These investment advisory services are offered by Stash Investments, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk. Offer is subject to terms and conditions. Welcome back to the PDB. Nearly 30 U.S. ambassadors based around the world were told in recent days to pack up and return to Washington. It's a move by the White House that reflects President Trump's push to bring the diplomatic corps in line with his America First agenda. According to multiple diplomats, those ambassadors were informed that their tours would end early, with instructions to return by mid-January. All are career Foreign Service officers, not political appointees, who were nominated under the Biden administration and confirmed by the Senate. Usually, that wouldn't raise any eyebrows. Ambassadorial tours typically last 3 to 4 years, and career diplomats often stay on well into a new administration, providing continuity as the president sets his foreign policy direction. From Washington's perspective, alignment matters. The State Department framed the recalls as a standard exercise of presidential authority, saying that an ambassador is a personal representative of the president and that it is his right to ensure that U.S. diplomats advance the America First agenda. Now, ambassadors generally fall into two camps: political appointees, often donors or close allies of a president, and career diplomats drawn from the Foreign Service. Political appointees are expected to resign at the start of a new administration. Career diplomats, by contrast, are usually retained, though they ultimately serve at the pleasure of the president. The union representing career diplomats reacted sharply. Nikki Gamer, a spokeswoman for the American Foreign Service Association, or AFSA, said the move was unprecedented, calling it the first mass recall of career diplomats serving as ambassadors or chiefs of mission. She said those affected were notified abruptly, typically without explanation, a process that she described as highly irregular. After reviewing its archives, AFSA said it could find no precedent for such recall since the modern Foreign Service was established. Even now, the full scope remains unclear. AFSA said it does not have an exact count of the ambassadors that have been affected and is working to confirm details. An unofficial list circulating among diplomats appears to show recalls from every region of the world, including roughly a dozen ambassadors serving in sub-Saharan Africa. The recalls come as the Trump administration moves to take a harder look at how U.S. diplomatic posts are staffed, and particularly in regions where ambassadorial vacancies have long persisted. Trump has not yet nominated ambassadors for a number of open posts, including in Africa, as embassies continue to operate under acting leadership, while the administration reviews its diplomatic footprint. This shakeup aligns with broader changes at the State Department under Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who's framed the effort as a, quote, reorganization designed to streamline the department and bring its workforce into closer alignment with administration policy. You may remember that process included roughly 1,300 layoffs announced in July of this year, including some 260 Foreign Service officers who were serving temporary rotations in Washington when their offices were eliminated. Some diplomats warn the recalls risk further damaging morale at a time when U.S. influence is already under pressure. China surpassed the U.S. in the number of diplomatic missions worldwide, and maintains a steady, uninterrupted rotation of ambassadors across its network. But for the administration, the message is straightforward. U.S. diplomacy is not on autopilot. The recalls are meant to reinforce executive control over foreign policy, with U.S. diplomats serving the president and his agenda. Okay, turning to Syria. Instability resurfaced as gunfire broke out in Aleppo between Syrian forces and the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, the SDF, leaving at least 3 people dead and more than 30 wounded as negotiations continue over plans to integrate the SDF into the country's state institutions. The clashes erupted Monday, less than a week before a 10th of March deadline meant to steady the situation. Under that agreement, Damascus and the SDF committed to a nationwide ceasefire and to integrating civil and military institutions in northeastern Syria into the state framework. But the approach to that milestone has been marked not by de-escalation, but by fresh fighting in one of the country's most sensitive urban centers. And that timing matters. The SDF is not a peripheral force, nor an easy one to absorb. Backed by Washington and absent from the rebel alliance that overthrew dictator Bashar al-Assad, it remains the most powerful non-governmental armed group in Syria, controlling strategically important territory across the northeast. As fighting spread through parts of Aleppo, even the basic contours of what happened became contested. Casualty figures vary depending on the source. The Damascus-run Aleppo Health Directorate said at least 2 civilians were killed and 8 others injured after SDF shelling struck residential neighborhoods. The SDF's media chief told CNN that at least 1 civilian was killed and 23 others were wounded, including 6 security personnel, after what he described as mortar and heavy weapons attacks by, quote, factions affiliated with the new Damascus government against SDF-held areas. As for who kicked off the latest clash, well, as you might imagine, each side places blame on the other. That's a surprise. But by Monday evening, both sides confirmed that the fighting had stopped. The SDF said the pause came, quote, in response to ongoing de-escalation contacts, while Damascus issued a similar statement indicating hostilities had halted, language that suggests restraint, but perhaps not yet resolution. Behind the scenes, frustration over the stalled integration process was becoming more visible. Syria's foreign minister said the SDF had not shown sufficient seriousness in implementing the 10th of March agreement. According to the state-run Syrian, the violence also coincided with a visit to Damascus by Turkey's foreign minister, adding pressure to already fragile negotiations. Speaking to reporters, he said Ankara supports the talks, but warned that integration must proceed through dialogue and reconciliation. Turkey's position looms large over this whole process. Ankara has long opposed the SDF, which the U.S. trained and armed during the fight against the Islamic State. But Turkey views the group as linked to the Kurdistan Workers' Party, which Ankara, of course, labels a terror group. It's a designation that continues to shape ongoing talks. So the latest clashes in Aleppo offer more evidence that the new Syrian government continues to face serious challenges during this post-war transition. Even as the negotiations press ahead, instability is testing just how much authority Damascus can actually exert and how easily the country's fragile calm can give way to renewed violence. Okay, coming up in today's Back of the Brief, Jong Un and his daughter make a public appearance to open a luxury resort in the Hermit Kingdom. Have you booked your room yet? I'll have those details when we come back. Hey, Mike Baker here with a message from our friends at Verge Gold. Now, did you know this? Gold is up around 40% this year. It's true. It's not speculation. It's reality. And if a portion of your savings isn't diversified into gold, well, you could be missing the boat. Here's the facts. Inflation is still too high, and the U.S. dollar is still too weak. And the government debt, well, you know this, it seems to be almost insurmountable. And that's why central banks have been flocking to gold, and they're the ones driving prices up to record highs. But it's not too late to diversify your savings and buy gold from Birch Gold. Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. And you don't pay a dime out of pocket. Just text PDB to 989-898 and claim your free information kit. There's no obligation. It's just useful information. And remember, the best indicator of the future is the past, and gold has historically been a safe haven during times of uncertainty or instability. That's why I urge you to consider buying gold when diversifying with the Birch Gold Group. Text PDB to 989-898 right now to claim your free information kit on gold. Again, text PDB to 989-898. Protect your future today with Verge Gold. In today's Back of the Brief, well, are you dreaming of a vacation to a faraway exotic land? Well, let me tell you something. Little Rocket Man has just the place for you. North Korea is getting into the luxury resort business. I kid you not. I'm not making this up. According to reports, Jong Un has just cut the ribbon on a brand new high-end tourist complex near the Chinese border, complete with 5 luxury hotels, not just one, 5 luxury hotels, scenic mountain views, and all the trappings of a modern vacation destination. Joining him for the grand opening was his young daughter, Jong Un, who once again, interestingly, took center stage in a carefully choreographed public appearance. That is something worth watching. Now, if this feels a little surreal, well, that's because it is. North Korea is one of the most isolated and heavily sanctioned countries on Earth. The economy struggles to meet basic needs. Food insecurity, malnutrition, and poverty are widespread. Electricity shortages are routine. And yet, here we are, watching state media proudly showcase luxury hotels and leisure grounds, quote, for the people. The resort is located in Samjeon, a remote northern city near the Chinese border that the regime has spent years trying to rebrand as a symbol of progress and modern prosperity. State outlets are calling the development, quote, attractive mountainous tourist resort, highlighting its upscale accommodations and natural beauty. What they're not highlighting, of course, is who this resort is actually for. Foreign tourism to North Korea remains extremely limited, tightly controlled, and of course, politically sensitive. The domestic tourism exists, but access to luxury travel is reserved only for elites, party loyalists, and those with the right connections. For the average North Korean citizen, a stay at a 5-star mountain hotel is about as realistic as a ticket for a flight to the moon. So you ask, why roll this out now? Well, that's a good question. Part of it is optics. Luxury resorts make for great propaganda. They project normalcy, progress, prosperity. They suggest a country moving forward, even when the fundamentals tell a very different story. And then there's the daughter. Jong Un's decision to prominently feature Jong Un at events like this is no accident. Analysts increasingly view her appearances as part of a longer-term effort to shape public perception, softening the regime's image and quietly signaling dynastic continuity. In North Korea, symbolism matters a lot. So, while missile launches usually dominate any stories about North Korea, this week's story is about the launch of a 5-star resort, a surreal development in a country that can barely keep the lights on and feed its people. Now, of course, they're going to have to come up with a catchy tourism slogan, right? Everybody's got one. So I tell you what, send me your best suggestions. Just send them to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. I'm thinking maybe North Korea. Come for the missile launches, stay for the rolling blackouts. Or maybe Pyongyang is for lovers. It's probably already been taken. Or what about this? What happens in North Korea stays in North Korea. Okay, you get the idea. Send me your thoughts. And that, my friends, is the President's Daily Brief for Friday, the 26th of December. Again, if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. And I do hope that Santa brought you a subscription to our YouTube channel at President's Daily Brief. It is, in fact, the gift that keeps on giving. I'm Mike Baker, and I'll be back later today with a special edition of the PDB Afternoon Bulletin. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool. Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.